Saraswati Goswami Thakur Maharaj ki Samaj Gaur ki all glories to the Son, all glories to the Son, all glories to the Son, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Yene matam idam nityam anutishtanti manava shraddhavanto anusyanto mucyante te karmahi. Translation in proper by His Divine Grace, Sri Prabhupada. One who executes his duties according to my injunctions and follows this teaching faithfully, without envy, becomes free from the bondage of fruitive actions. The injunctions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom, and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction, without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita, but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruitive action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. So, in the previous verse, actually the third chapter itself, Krishna is explaining the process of liberation from material nature. At the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is lamenting. And Arjuna is not some ordinary person. Arjuna is a very well-learned Kshatriya. He's an accomplished warrior. He has won many battles. And he's a grandson of Bhishma Dev. He's a great soul. But he's in a dilemma. In this war of Mahabharata, he has to kill his own family members. Now this is a dilemma because both the sides are to him apparently against dharma. One has to, so if his family survives, that is if the Kauravas live, then the whole of land would be overrun with adharma. Duryodhana and his brothers, they are sinful people. And they are ruling. So the only option is to win the kingdom of Bharat. The only option to win the kingdom of Bharat is to kill these kings. But they are also his family members. And that is not the only problem. The problem is that along with Duryodhana, in his support are these people like Bhishma and Drona and Kripa, who are symbols of dharma. So now, in this battle of Mahabharata, he has to kill all of them. So Arjuna is not able to understand what should be done and what should not be done. Meaning that Arjuna is not able to understand what is better to do. Is it good that I kill all these personalities and establish dharma, but at the same time killing these people also is it's sinful to kill. How can one kill one's own grandfather? And not to speak of grandfather, he has to kill his own guru, his own spiritual master. So what should be done at this stage? So you see, Arjuna's dilemma is not some ordinary dilemma. Arjun is certainly lamenting for bodily relations. Arjun is lamenting for his brothers, his father-in-laws, and so many others. But at the same time, this is also a consideration. And this question is put by Arjun to Krishna in the very first chapter. So Krishna doesn't say, okay, just kill, do as I say and that's it. I'm the God, you just listen and that's it. No, Krishna is explaining it very scientifically. In the process of instructing Arjun what to do, Krishna delineates the whole process of religion. And this particular instruction that Krishna is now giving, that following my injunctions, Krishna is coming to the point of obedience to Dharma. In the seventh chapter, Krishna says, Sarvasya jaham hriti sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam kohanam cha vedaishcha sarvair aham eva vedyah vedanta krita vedvite chaham. I am situated in everyone's heart. Sarvasya jaham hriti sannivishto. That we call Paramatma is none other than Krishna himself. Vadanti tattvavidas sattvam yad jnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shakyate. So, the Supreme Person, the Absolute Truth, exists in three forms: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So, religions that worship an impersonal form of God, the great God or the great light, they are worshipping the impersonal form of the God. The religions that worship the God within the heart, they are worshipping Paramatma. And religions that are worshipping the personality of God, like Vaishnavas, they are worshipping the personality of Krishna. So in all ways, in all ways, humans are always following the instructions of the Lord. So this Lord within the heart, he is Krishna himself. Sarvasya jaham yati samishto. Mattah smritir jnanam apurnam cha. From me alone comes knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness. Vedaishte sarver aham eva vedya. From all the Vedas, I am the known. Vedanta Krit Vedvite Chaham. I am the compiler and the knower of the Vedas. So I am the compiler of Vedas. So Krishna himself is giving the Vedas. And he himself is to be known. So how is he to be known? That is what Bhagavad Gita is explaining here. So one cannot simply approach the Supreme Lord because he desires to. No, yes, one can approach the Lord, but one will not understand him. So for that there is a whole process known as the yoga process. And it begins with very first understanding of the soul. I am not this body. So Krishna explains that in the second chapter of Gita. That you are not born, you will die. Or Dehinasman yatha dehi kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantar praptir dhiyastatra namyati. So in 30, within almost 20 verses, Krishna explains the nature of soul. That this soul is eternal, is unborn, is unborn, and is not killed when the body is killed. So in this way, he has first explained the science of the soul. And then he explains how to realize this soul in the next 42 verses of the Gita. But Arjun becomes confused. Now, Arjun is not confused because he is foolish or he is not intelligent. But Arjun is confused because Arjun is in an aggravated state of conditioning. I mean, imagine his own grandfather and spiritual master are standing in front of him and he has to kill them. Simply telling them that they are not this body, you are not this body. It's not going to help. At least those who are from India, that when someone dies, you always have a Brahmana coming and speaking Bhagavad Gita. Actually, no one remembers that these are the verses that Pandit speaks. Najayate, Mujate, Bhakti, but you can't remember all of this. When your mother or your father are lying there on the floor, you can't think of all this high philosophy. And that is the condition of Arjuna in this moment. Is in a very aggravated condition. So therefore, when Krishna explains the philosophy of karma and jnana, Arjuna is not able to understand it. So Krishna starts revealing the whole philosophy in a simpler language. So now Krishna has explained the process of karma. That every human being has a particular nature according to which he has to act. So Krishna is explaining that Arjuna should act according to his nature and offer the fruits to Krishna to become free from this bondage of illusion of this body. To become free from this illusion that I am this body, that these are my relations, you have to first perform the act of karma yoga or sacrifice. So Krishna has explained the whole process of yajna. So he explains in the previous verses he has already explained that even to live, one has to eat food. One may not be a philosopher or anything, even an animal has to eat to live. This food is coming from some higher authorities. Our factories, our laboratories are not creating food. It's coming from nature. The nature is providing this food. This nature is coming from the Supreme. So the nature provides this food because of performance of yajna. Yajna comes from the Vedas. Or as Krishna puts it, grains come from rains. Rains come from yajna. And yajna comes from the Vedas. But where are the Vedas coming from? Vedanta, Veda, Evachaham. The Vedas coming from Krishna. So even those who are atheistic, to survive they have to perform yajna. And this must come from the Supreme Lord himself. So even unknowingly we have to depend on the Supreme Lord only for our deliverance. So what is the need for following the instructions of Krishna if he is sustaining everyone? So Krishna is explaining in this chapter that those who act sinfully must repeat the cycle of birth and death in this world and suffer continuously. So to avoid suffering, see, one has to act in any way, whether one is an atheist or a theist, one has to act to survive. But to avoid suffering, if one follows the instructions of Krishna and acts accordingly, one will become free from sin and one will attain to his original spiritual nature, free from birth and death. One has to act in this nature. Everyone is composed of the three modes of nature. Krishna is saying, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vibhuda atma kartaham iti nandate. Previously, Krishna has explained in this chapter that material nature is forcing everyone to act. So even the birds are acting, animals are acting, even human beings. Whether one is a devotee or one is an atheist, one has to act. But these actions are not done by himself. The actions are being done by the material nature. Now you may say, please give me the book and I'll give you this book. But who is giving this book? It's my hand which is giving you the book. If I don't have a hand, I can't give you this book. But what is this? This is my hand. This is my head. So where am I? What is acting here? It is the material nature which is acting. Prakritehe kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha. The nature acting from the three modes is acting. I am not. I am only desiring. Now suppose I don't have muscle strength, I cannot give it to you. You may ask me for the book and I can give you. You may ask me for these tables. That I can't give. Because even though I desire, nature is not allowing me. And this nature, who's instructing, who's guiding this nature? Maya Dhikshina Prakriti Suyat. Krishna is instructing the nature to act. So the living being cannot even act without the instruction of the Lord. He is only free to desire, but he is not free to act. So Krishna is now advising Arjuna, saying, you follow my instruction. In this way, you will become free from the bondage of this material nature. Because if you do not follow these instructions, if you disregard these instructions, and you follow your own whimsical thoughts, you will become more and more materialistic. So Krishna is continuing further in this chapter. Krishna next verse is again explaining. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not practice them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and doomed to ignorance and bondage. So material nature is condemning us. So Prabhupada explains that material nature more or less condemns us to death. Sometimes a person commits murder and he's given the death sentence. So it's not that after the judgment is passed, he is immediately killed. No, he will be kept in the prison for a month or 6 months or a year. But his death is certain. The person knows he is going to be hanged or shot or something. So likewise, we are also born with a death sentence. Jatasya dhruvo mrityu. As soon as you are born, death is certain. So, which sane person wants to be killed? Suppose tomorrow police comes and says, sir, you are supposed to be executed. You will protest. You're not going to say, okay, it's okay, you can kill me. Everyone dies, I will also die. No, you will protest immediately. Why? Why should I die? Because you are intelligent. You know that you have done no crime. Why should you be punished? But at the same time, everyone is condemned to death and no one is protesting. Because we think, okay, that is 50 years away. No, but then the 50 years pass, then we become scared. Oh my God, I don't want to die. So you see, Bhagavad Gita is common sense. Bhagavad Gita is everyday knowledge. Krishna is advising us. Tamasva ma jyotirgamay. Don't stay in darkness, come to light. Mrityor ma mritam gamay. Don't stay in death, come to eternal life. So Krishna is advising that by performance of this yajna, you gradually become free from this illusion of material nature, thinking I am this body. And when you understand that I am the soul, Aham Brahmasmi, you will become free from the bondage of this body. You will become free from the cycle of birth and death. Tyaktva deham punarjanma neti ma veti suarjuna. Krishna is explaining in Bhagavad Gita. Mam upete punarjanma dukhalayam shashvatam atmavanti mahatmana samasiddhi paramam pita. So those who attain me, they do not come back to this material world. Dukhalayam shashvatam, which is full of misery and which is temporary in nature. So you become a Mahatma and you do not come back to this material world. So Krishna, in the very beginning, he is advising. And the same advice is given in the 18th chapter also. That if out of your own whimsical thought process, you disregard these instructions, you will be condemned by the material energy. Birth and death will again consume you. In every birth, birth after birth, we have seen. This is not the first time we have a body. This is not the first time we are having a family or an occupation. We have had them in so many lives. But this is one life. What is so special about this life? This is one life where we have the opportunity to escape the cycle of birth and death. Ahara nidra bhaya vayasanam samanya vitat pasubhi maranam. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharmaya vinah pasubhi samanam. So we have enjoyed this family life, profession, eating, sleeping, everything we have enjoyed in many ways. But now we have human life. And only here we have the opportunity to escape this cycle. For those of you who have seen deaths in the family or something, you know how difficult it is, how painful it is. But when we disregard the instructions of Krishna, we become entangled in this material nature and we are forced to see these again and again. So by simply following Krishna, actually Krishna is not advising anything other than what is Arjuna's duty. Because after hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna does not become a sannyasi. Arjuna does not become a renunciate. Arjuna follows his duty. He becomes a kshatriya. He acts as a kshatriya. However, the difference is Arjuna now acts with knowledge. If he would have heard Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna would have acted out of passion. Arjuna would have acted to gain the kingdom for himself. Now he is fighting as a matter of duty. Bhagavad Gita is not about fighting or not fighting. Bhagavad Gita is not about war or peace. Bhagavad Gita is about understanding the absolute truth, about executing one's duties in the matter of understanding the absolute. This is the solid substance of Bhagavad Gita. And it begins with Karma Yoga, dedicating the fruits of your action to Krishna. Hare Krishna. So this is very simple actually. That's one point I can say here. Krishna says in the 9th chapter, how do you execute this karma yoga? So what should be done now? I'm sitting here, so what is my karma? I'm an engineer or a doctor or something, what do I do? So Krishna is explaining very simply. Patram, Pushpam, Phalam, Toyam, Yoga Bhakti. So water, a leaf, a fruit, a leaf, a flower, a fruit or some water, that you can offer. So just offer it with love and devotion. So if you offer it, I will accept. So whatever you eat, you make that as an offering to Krishna. That itself is karma. So in our process, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, we chant the names of Krishna. And Sankirtan Yajna, which is also yajna sacrifice. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this act of sacrifice is enough to purify us. So we have already chanted, we are going to have prasad also, there is also sacrifice. So this is the process of yajna, this is the sacrifice for this age. You don't have to go to a forest, you don't have to become a sannyasi or a yogi, you don't have to perform fire sacrifices. But this simple sacrifice of offering some food, some water, at least water someone can offer, even if you have no money, even if you are very poor, at least water you can offer, or some leaf or some fruit. That itself is enough for Krishna. So in this way, you can perform the sacrifice and attain the realization of absolute truth. You can realize Krishna. Okay? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments? We have 20 minutes.
Jos nyt kysyttävää tai kommentoitavaa, meillä on vielä aikaa tässä. Please ask.
Okay,
Yes.
I have a question. What it means when dharma and like and karma like
Connection between dharma and karma.
the Krishna explained that then there's this concept of dharma, the purpose of life.
Mhm.
There is the inner and outer explanation of dharma. Then you have karma,
Mhm.
like the circumstances.
Mhm.
So how to understand this?
We can have
And maybe you
See, dharma is your, which Prabhupada explains it. Dharma means your characteristic. Sugar is sweet, salt is salty. That's dharma. That cannot be changed. Sugar cannot become sour, sugar cannot become salty. That's dharma. So, Savaya Pumsham Paro Dharma Yato Bhakti Bhakshati. So, it's the duty of every dharma of every living entity is to serve the Supreme. Karma means action. So, how you execute your dharma, that is your karma. How you execute, these are the daily actions that you do. If these actions are connecting you with the Supreme, if they are in accordance with your dharma, then that is called karma yoga or karma. If these are not in accordance with the injunctions of dharma, then that is vikarma, opposite, prohibited action. And if these actions are, if these actions do not produce any results, then they are akarma. So, yes, so pure devotional service to the Lord comes in the category of akarma, without any reaction. It is transcendental. Actions that give you beneficial results for this body, for your mind, they are karma. Punya is also known as. And actions which are not in accordance with injunctions, which are contrary, they are known as vikarma. So sinful actions, they give contrary results. If you smoke cigarettes, you get lung cancer. So, vikar, they have contrary results. So actions that are conducive to your dharma, they fall in the category of akarma. So is that clear? To put it very simply. This is so complex that even Brahmaji cannot explain it actually.
when there is different dharma is something that the nature.
Nature.
Dharma is also like
The body is a result of karma.
Yeah.
It's a reaction of karma.
Tämä ruumis on aikaisemman
So it's like
karman
the difference. Like dharma is action. Dharma is something that exists, but then it's also application.
Okay, let me put it this way. Let me give you a very simple analogy. Karma, let's call karma. Karma, okay, let's say dharma. Dharma means you have to go to central from here. That's your dharma. You have your objective that has to be fulfilled. There are so many ways of doing that. You can ride a bicycle, you can take a car, you can take a train, you can take a bus, or you can walk it down. It will take you some hours, but you can walk it down. Your objective is to reach there. You can do it in different ways. If you take a bicycle, it will take you half an hour. If you take a car, it will take you 10 minutes. That is your karma. Okay. So, but dharma is not changing. Simply because you're riding a car doesn't mean that you can ride to Monte Carlo. Or simply because you're on a train doesn't mean you can go to Olu. No, you have to just reach the center. So you have this body. Savaya Om Sham Paro Dharmo Yato Bhakti Bhakshate. No, you have a European body, I have an Indian body, someone may have an African body. But that doesn't change the dharma that we have to serve the Supreme. Actually, yes, the Bhagavatam says Savaya Om Sham Paro Dharmo. But another meaning of the word Pumsha is soul, jiva. So even a dog or a cat is supposed to serve the Supreme. But he's in such a body that he cannot do that anymore. The consciousness is completely gone. So when he comes to human form, he has that consciousness by which he can serve. So dharma is immediately established. As soon as you are born, dharma is established. Now, how you execute it,
Miten,
that's your choice.
miten sitten
So in Europe, I can't ask you to go to some holy temples and perform fire sacrifices because the circumstances do not exist. But you can chant.
Things in
Me
Europe,
voi aina laulaa pyhän nimen
current karma is not visible in a way.
It's not even in India.
Yeah,
It's nowhere now.
it has to be established.
It's gone everywhere. The whole world is practically the same now, atheistic.
Kaikkialla maailmassa.
So you see, so dharma is already established, but you have different bodies, so you can execute in different ways.
Ja niiden kehojen mukaisesti me toimitamme
Yes.
muotomme mukaisesti.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Who is the supreme being that we are serving through our karma?
The supreme being.
Joka
Okay.
on korkein olento, jota me palvelemme.
The Srimad Bhagavatam explains,
Srimad Bhagavatam selittää.
Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdate. The supreme being exists in all
Korkein
forms.
olento on
Actually,
läsnä
we,
kaikissa.
we are also part of the supreme.
Me ollaan myös osa
Yes. So, the all-pervading Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, the whole universe, that is the Brahman.
Se on
That is the supreme. That is the external appearance of supreme. The Antaratma, the Paramatma that we call,
Paramatma.
that is also the supreme. But beyond this, the origin of it, the personality of Godhead, Purusha, he is the supreme being. He is also known as Bhagavan. And he goes by varieties of names. So Lord Brahma explains, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna is the supreme person. He is the origin. But everything is emanating from him. Everything is coming from Krishna. All the infinite Narayan Murtis are coming from him. And from Narayan Murtis, all the emanations, all the Devis, Devatas, the whole universes, everything is emanating from Narayan. Narayana Paradvaita. So yes, if you want one name, yes, you can call him Narayan or Krishna. He is the origin, he is the supreme person. And he is the objective. So one can attain Paramatma, one can attain Brahman. But unless one attains Narayan, one will have to take birth again and again.
Me voimme saavuttaa Brahmanin tai Paramatmaa, mutta jos me ei saavuteta Narayanaa, niin Bhagavania, niin silloin me joudutaan
Yes.
syntymään uudestaan.
Does that answer your question? Correction. Yes.
Prabhuji, I didn't understand what yajna meant. Like, name comes from yajna.
Mitä
Oh,
tarkoittaa?
yajna.
Yajna.
Sacrifice.
Se tarkoittaa uhritoimia.
Okay, see, it's very simple.
Se on hyvin yksinkertaista.
Now we are sitting here. Now we're going to get some nice prasad and everything.
Ja kohta-
And there are people in some parts of this very earth who do not have any food to eat.
Ja
Like there was this region in India known as Kalahandi, which is the very east part of India, where there were like perennial droughts. Thousands of people would die. No rains would grow.
Esimerkiksi kuivuus.
And they're so poor that they cannot take a bus and go to some other city and eat.
Että ihmiset kuolee.
So how do we explain all of this?
Nälkään.
How does this
Miten voi
work?
selittää
How does this
sitä?
happen?
Miten voi selittää, että ihmiset kuolee
You see,
nälkään kuivuudessa? Ja
When you go to a shop, for example, you want to buy some bread, you're feeling hungry. You go to a shop and you realize you don't have a car or cash with you. How do you get the bread?
nälkäisiä, niin miten me tehdään se?
You cannot. Or you can pick the bread and then police will feed you for the next month or so. Sorry. So you see, unless you have money, you cannot buy from the store. So the money, so unless you have karma, you cannot get anything. No, suppose this land outside is very nice, very fertile and everything. But unless you dig it, unless you plant the seeds, how will you get vegetables and grains? That is karma. Some action is needed. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining that grains come from rain. Unless rain falls, there is no point in having fertile land. But where is the rain coming from? The rain comes from demigods, from authorities, devatas. But how do devatas give this rain? They give through yajna. They have to perform yajna to please them, and then the rain comes. So if yajna is not performed, rain ceases slowly. So then you have natural calamities.
Ja sitten me voidaan saada niinku
Yes, any other questions or comments?
tässä korkein, jonka kaikki tulee.
Yes, please.
I have one.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Arjuna kind of didn't understood the karma and jnana side, and Brihat Bhagavatamrita there is also mentioned that Arjuna didn't understood what Krishna said, so he was gazing these beautiful eyes and was overwhelmed of Krishna like this. And Krishna has explained the Bhagavad Gita like 2 times for Arjuna, but Arjuna was overwhelmed about Krishna and he didn't. And he started still, Arjuna was acting like perfectly according to Bhagavad Gita. How this is possible?
Okay. See, Krishna, who is Arjuna actually? Let's start with
Kuka on
that.
Arjuna ensinnäkin?
See, there are hundreds of inner meanings of Bhagavad Gita that we can find. Actually, the whole point of Bhagavad Gita
Koko
is,
Bhagavad Gita
as Srila Prabhupada
on
tells us.
Srila Prabhupada selittää.
So let's try to understand it that way.
Yrittää
Actually, Arjuna can never be under illusion.
Arjuna ei voi koskaan
Arjuna is Naranarayan. He's an expansion of Lord himself. Arjuna is not an ordinary man. He's not like us. In this particular circumstance, Arjuna is put into ignorance. Because the real objective is not Mahabharata war. Krishna has already made that very clear. Krishna is going to make it clear in the 7th chapter. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge. So paritranaya sadhunam. He's not saying paritranaya arjunanam. No, he has come here to deliver all the saintly souls, not just Arjuna. So Krishna is speaking to the Gita. But Gita cannot be spoken if Arjuna is eternally liberated. He doesn't even need this war actually. Arjuna doesn't need this war. But Arjuna is acting in such a way. Actually, this answer you will find if you study the first chapter of Gita, where Arjuna is becoming more and more confused looking at the situation. Arjuna is overwhelmed with grief. You see, Arjuna is also a devotee, soft-hearted. He is not just grieving, like Srila Prabhupada explains. Arjuna is grieving not just for his grandfather and his teacher, but he's also overwhelmed because he's thinking of all the soldiers on the battlefield. Arjuna is arguing that for the sake of Duryodhana's ambition, why should so many innocent soldiers die? Why should I kill them? Why should I become an instrument of this killing? And that is Arjuna's limitation. In all of this Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is never displaying any fear. Arjuna is never arguing that Krishna, I could die. No, he's happy. He accepts that truth. He's not fearful of that. But he's worried that so much of innocent killing will take place through his hands. So he doesn't want that. He's not agreeable to that proposition, and that's why he's overwhelmed with grief. And because of his overwhelming grief, now remember we are not talking about killing of 1 or 2 men here, millions and millions of men. So Arjuna's grief is overwhelming, and therefore he is not able to understand the philosophy of karma and jnana when Krishna explains it briefly in the 2nd chapter. Otherwise, Arjuna is always doing that. In the 10th chapter, he's going to call Krishna Kamalalochana, lotus-eyed Lord. So he always understands this. But for the circumstance, he's playing the role of an overwhelmed Kshatriya, which is pretty much our situation also, isn't it? When we see our own family members dying, when we see our own health failing, we become overwhelmed with grief and fear. Even as devotees, we become overwhelmed. So that is the realization of Bhagavad Gita. So yes, at the time of death, if we can think of Krishna, then that will be the success of all our life. Otherwise, everything, this is just been shown. If we do not remember Krishna.
It seems that Arjuna already like did what Krishna is explaining in like that always think of me and when you are always with me. Arjuna was did it like continuously all the time.
Yes.
So therefore the Bhagavad Gita instructions are kind of of course I do that. I'm doing it all the time.
Yes, correct. Actually, Srila Prabhupada explains this.
Srila Prabhupada selittää, että
The whole of Mahabharata is written for the sake of presenting Bhagavad Gita. Vyasdeva writes the whole Mahabharata so he says that in the age of Kali, people are not very intelligent. And they like to hear other people's stories. So you have Mahabharata, which is full of so much drama. But Mahabharata itself is unimportant. It has no value really. The real substance of Bhagavad Gita, of Mahabharata, is Bhagavad Gita. So just to present Bhagavad Gita, Vyasdeva composed the whole Mahakavya. So in other words, we can say that the central hero of Mahabharata is Krishna. It's not Yudhishthira, not Arjuna, no one. It's Krishna only.
Keskipiste itse asiassa Mahabharatassa on itse asiassa
Hare
Krishna, ei
Yes,
Yudhishthira.
we have 2 minutes. If someone has
Meillä on
any
muutama
questions.
minuutti
5
tässä
minutes
vielä.
more actually. Yes. Okay, no questions. Let me stop here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
His Grace Madhusevita Prabhu ki jai. Thank you very much, Madhusevita Prabhu, for your very nice lecture.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Kiitos paljon Madhusevita Prabhulle niin hienosta luennostaan.